And, yeah, and it's always an honor to be asked to speak here because I'm speaking to the choir, basically. So, speaking of speakers, we've had a really great round of speakers while we're in this interim period. So why don't we all just give a great round of applause for all the speakers that we've had. Spirituality, small word, right? I'll start by a little personal story about my spiritual awakening. Before I do that, do you mind if I give a shout out to my family? They're on live stream, they're watching this morning. So, hi Corrine, hi Tom, hi Amelia, hi Sophia. Hey. Good. My spiritual awakening's name is Barbara. Barbara and I met in San Diego, California in 1971, and we were walking along a beach talking, and all of a sudden, sometimes, the universe just has to rise up and slap you back ahead and wake you up. And that's exactly what happened to me. There was a voice behind me while we were walking that said, "This one," about that loud. And I whipped around because I thought we were going to be robbed. There was nothing there. Just as clear voice, this one. Okay, you got my attention. So we went along a little longer and we're dating, and I had a rather nasty experience with an evangelical church, which was kind of like a experience. Hello? No? Is it me? I have no idea. And I wasn't too turned into church at that time, and Barbara came to me and she said, "Oh, do you want to go to church with me?" And I'm going, "Oh, I don't know." And I asked her this question. I said, "Will you still date me if I do not go to church with you?" And without missing a beat, she said yes. So that act of acceptance started me more towards my spiritual path. Then I go to her church, United Methodist Church, Imperial Beach. I'm sitting there, place is pretty full, and we're waiting, and all of a sudden I just get this huge feeling of a presence, just huge. I'm going, wow, it's come from behind me. And I turn around, there's this short little Irish guy named Mike Cooney, who happens to be the minister, little red hair guy, just smiling. And I went, whoa, what's going on here? I'm really feeling this. And he walks up to the front. He doesn't stand up behind the lectern. He just walks up to the front and he's turned around and he starts talking. The doors opened up. Now at that time, my path was going towards real darkness, okay? I was involved in some nefarious activities, which I won't go into here because there's still warrants out there. Let's just say it had to do with a green herb and motorcycles. Okay, so and right then and there, I left that path and started on a path that's brought me to where I am today. So that's my kind of spiritual awakening. So along the way, I've run across several wonderful teachers. Barb and I started to get involved in Unity back in the 80s, and we've been involved ever since. And that's been a real home for us because, whee! Flashing back, man. Remember that path I was going down? It involved samples. Okay. So what is spirituality? Well, it has to do with spirit. But not as a ghost, but as an essence of being human, your soul or inner life. Spirituality often has to do with religion, but it doesn't have to. You might say, I'm not religious, but I have a strong sense of spirituality, which might mean that you practice yoga or meditation, or you pray with a group, or you mature your spirit by spending time in nature, fly fishing. Religion usually has defined beliefs, rituals, and guidelines. Spirituality is more individual, right? Okay. Also, spirituality includes a sense of connection to something larger than ourselves. And it typically involves a search for meaning in life. Remember Ben Jameson? Yeah. We still have his book in a bookstore, I think, right? Church Free Spirituality. Great book. Great book. So I'm quoting a couple of things from his book. He says, "It is the Christ within that we are seeking to express more through our spiritual practice." He goes on to state that Jesus is the great example, as opposed to a more religious view of Jesus as the great exception. Jesus understood that there is no separation from the allness that God is. Jesus, therefore, is not better than any one of us. Rather, he was more aware of his oneness with Spirit. He is referred to in metaphysical circles as the master teacher. Few others in history have attained this level of spiritual awareness, such as Buddha or Krishna. The title Christ is given to Jesus to recognize his spiritual attainment, just like Siddhartha Gautama was given the title of Buddha, the aware one, right? Jameson states that Jesus' life was dedicated to showing people of his day and every age to follow how to align with the divinity inside like he did. Okay. So, unity sees us as divine beings who are one with the divine presence. We already have it. It's already there. And we're spending our time. This is annoying, isn't it? Okay, go ahead and click that off. Hi. Still there? Yeah, good. Okay. So we are divine and we have a divine self. So Butterworth quotes Matthew 6, verse 8. Jesus says, "Your Father knows what you need before you ask him." And in Luke 12:32, "It is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom." So, how many of you read Eric Butterworth? Show of hands. Yeah. Great author. Great author. He says this story about being one with God. A little boy was separated from his scout pack. The rest of the scouts searched for him for hours, eventually notifying the police, who called on the community to join the search. After he had spent a night in what most persons would consider to be a frightening experience, the boy was found sitting under a tree, calmly whittling with his scout knife. He was asked, "Weren't you afraid out here in this lonely place all night?" He replied, "Nah, I wasn't afraid. God is here." He was asked, "But how do you know God is here?" And he answered, "Because I am here." By the way, this is a book called The Universe is Calling by Eric Butterworth. It's a great treatise on prayer. Okay. So, let's take a look at spirituality. Let's see, we have a graphic. It's coming. Meanwhile, engage in the experience of the screen. Beautiful. I'm going to talk a little bit about psychological flexibility and how that can enhance your spiritual practice. So psychological flexibility basically means contacting the present moment fully as a conscious human being and based on what the situation affords, changing or persisting in behavior in the service of chosen values. So let's take spirituality as a value. Now a little bit about values. Let's say you have a value of health, okay? So what do you do with you have a value of health? Well, you take action towards that value, right? You take walks, you watch what you eat, drink a lot of water, get enough sleep. Oh yes, get enough sleep. And those are called actions towards your value. Now you can also engage in actions that take you away from your value, right? Such as, oh, the funnel cake looked really good at the baseball game last night. Too much personal information. And so you take action that takes you away from that. Or in your head, oh, I'm just too tired to take a walk today, right? Your mind comes in. So there's things that take you towards and take you away from what you value. So if we take a look at psychological flexibility and what that means, Stephen Hayes, Kirk Strosahl, and Kelly Williams developed what's called acceptance and commitment therapy, which is a process composed of 6 core processes that comprise psychological flexibility. And I'm going to go through those core processes quickly here. Let's see. Well, I think I am. Yep, there they are. So the first core process is acceptance. That's being willing to have whatever thoughts, emotions, memories, and body sensations that show up when moving in a valued direction. So that is, going back to health, something comes up, I'm too tired, and you say, oh, yep, I'm having that thought, I'm too tired, and I'm going to take a walk anyway. Okay? Then they have a term called diffusion, which is basically kind of letting go of stuff that comes up. It's called stepping back from the thoughts, images, memories, and body sensations that pose as barriers and noticing them as thoughts, images, memories, and body sensations that need not determine what you do. Contact with the present moment, being aware of your immediate experience right here and right now rather than being preoccupied with past and future. Self is context, taking the perspective of observing self to notice our ongoing experience, including noticing our limiting self-stories. In other words, you don't say, you say you're having a cold. You're not a cold, right? But notice what people will say. I'm depressed. They define themselves by the depression rather than saying, I'm a person who's experiencing depression. That's, now you're in the context. If you believe you're depressed, if you buy into depression, now you're the content of your thinking, not the holder of thoughts. And last, or not last, values, clarifying and strengthening connection to what really matters. Values are what you choose to care about, choosing in this moment to care about something. So if, like for health, for instance, you may be at a restaurant. Okay, so there's a context where you can take committed action towards health, right? Right now, my experience has been with many restaurants, they serve you a meal and it could feed an army, right? It's a plate like this. So what I've developed is a little thing where I ask for a to-go box right away. And depending on how large the meal is, I'll either put half of it or a third of it or 2/3 of it in the box and just eat the portion that is healthy for me. Okay. And then the committed action would be doing just that, taking the food and putting it in a box. Okay, so there's 6 core processes that are involved in psychological flexibility. Okay, I can see we're falling asleep, too much talk here. Psych 101, yeah, it's okay. So everybody for a second, just go. Will he just shut up? I'm falling asleep over here. So before we go into the practice here, we're going to do a congregation participation exercise. That'll wake you up. Hayes, Strosahl, and Wilson, in the beginning of their second edition of Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, have this quote, and this gets at a very humanness of us, and it goes like this: "It is hard to have compassion for ourselves and others. It is hard. It is hard to be a human being." So give yourselves a pat on the back. This walk in life is not a cakewalk, right? As I'm sure all of you could attest here, we're throwing all kinds of stuff. And so developing that self-compassion and other compassion requires some doing. We're hardwired to flee or fight, right? We're not hardwired for compassion. That's a practice. So let's get to it. What do you say? Okay, so let's say we have spirituality as a value. Okay. Hi, Lisa. Everybody give Lisa a hand. She's our IT guru. Yeah. Lisa, in the lower right-hand box, would you type in spirituality? And take it to 20 font. There we go. Can everybody kind of see that? Yay, thank you. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to raise your hand, and when you feel the push to do it, otherwise I'll come to you and give you the mic anyway. And I want you to just kind of state a couple of, one or two things of why spirituality is important to you. And we'll go kind of slowly because Lisa's going to put that on the board. So who wants to go first? Claire.
Well, spirituality to me makes me feel larger and part of the overall universe, attached and part of that, instead of being a little bug.
Okay. So let's see if she's caught it there. Makes me feel larger and part of the universe. How's that? Good. Who's next? Tom.
Spirituality keeps me closer to other people because I realize we all have the same thing. So when we talk, I feel like we're talking the same language, we're feeling the same feelings, and it keeps me closer to people.
It's the only thing more powerful than my brain. I'm serious about that, by the way.
For me, it's the Holy Spirit within.
Spirituality gives me peace.
It helps guide my decisions and my path in life.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, cool. Okay, Lisa, if you go up to the square up and above spirituality, and towards, right towards in there. Is anybody else warm? There we go. Now, what I'd like you to do is share behaviors. These are actual things you do that take you towards your value of spirituality. Prayer would be one of those, right? Okay, so who wants to go? What are you actually doing?
Meditation.
Similar thought, but stay in the silence, kind of take a break. And
We come here to Unity and join with everybody else who's aiming towards improving their spirituality.
The Sangha. Arlene?
Journaling, writing my thoughts and feelings.
Yoga and movement with other people.
I do daily spiritual readings.
Nature, going into nature.
Yes, yeah.
Drumming and music.
I would put affirming, just affirming who I am, affirming the truth of who I am.
All right, really good. Okay, Lisa, if you move over to the square next to that one and type away. And again, these are behaviors. So now what I'd like you to do is think about those behaviors that kind of take you away from your value of spirituality.
Mindlessness as opposed to mindfulness.
Yes. Anybody know who John Kabat-Zinn is? Some of the people know who John Kabat-Zinn was talking about being mindful, and he says he's talking about when you're not mindful, and in the treatise on when not practicing is practicing, because when you get away from practice, when you come back to it, you know how much you miss it. And he says there's not a real issue about getting into mindlessness, because it's so robust in us to be mindless. Okay, there was another.
Any kind of screen time, electronics.
YouTube. Oh, sorry.
Being judgmental of others.
Harboring angry and resentful thoughts.
Okay, I've got a spot for that down below. So, Lisa, we'll cut and paste in a minute, but go ahead and finish that up. Harboring angry. No, go ahead. Harboring angry and resentful thoughts. Just go ahead and finish that, and then we'll cut and paste that down below. Because these are behaviors that we do, and then there's the mind stuff that we do. I'm going to make a distinction between that.
I remind myself that I am not my thoughts. That's not who I am.
Being too busy to concentrate on spirituality.
Busyness. Busyness. That's a pretty good list. Okay, Lisa, let's go down below that square and type in hooks, H-O-O-K-S. Right, Captain Hook. Why? Peter Pan's my enemy. Okay, so I already got one hook there, harboring angry and resentful thoughts. So this is stuff that's going on in your mind that takes you away from your value of spirituality. So we have one. There's more?
Worry.
Worry.
Limiting beliefs.
Limiting beliefs.
Focusing on the other, you know.
Do what now?
I guess separation.
Separation? Okay. Feeling separate? Is that?
Fear.
That one, the psalmist kind of hit on that, didn't it? Yeah.
Negativity.
Can't hear? Oh, negativity. There. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah.
believing my opinion is right.
Gossip. Let's put that up above in the behavior one. Great. Okay, that looks like a pretty good. I know we could get going forever on barriers in the mind, right? There's a ton there. So, now I want you to notice in this that as a congregation, we all have this, okay? You guys came up with this, right? I didn't feed it to you. We have all of this at once going on. So if you notice on the right side, that's kind of stuff that takes you towards your spirituality. And on the left side, those are kinds of things that take you away from spirituality. So how do we deal with the stuff on the left-hand side of the matrix there? And that's what we're going to do next. We're going to practice. So one of the things that I help people do in my practice is get them to start to notice these things with self-compassion. It's letting go of that beating up yourself thing. That's probably one of the big things that brings on a lot of suffering in this world, right? Being down on yourself. So I'm going to introduce you. We're going to do a little guided meditation here on what to do, and I'll kind of guide you through that. So, all you guys who know how to meditate, go ahead and get your zafu out, sit on the floor, cross-legged, lotus position. No music. You can participate, Nina. Yes. I always love to give Nina a break. Let's give her a hand, by the way. Yeah. Okay. So, get yourself centered, both feet on the floor. Letting the chair take your weight. Putting your hands on top of your tops of your legs, probably up in an open manner, or however you do it when you're doing meditation. Realizing that you're in this room here, that you're sitting in a chair. Sitting in a dignified manner. Letting your eyes go gently closed. And bringing your awareness to the sensation of air in your nostrils on the in-breath and the sensation of air in your nostrils on the out-breath. And now bring your awareness to your value of spirituality. And notice a hook that comes up in your mind that takes you away from that value, such as fear, harboring anger. Just notice that. You can say, I'm having the thought or the emotion or the memory or the physical sensation that, whatever that is, let's do that. I'm having this thought. And then next, call it what it is. It's a thought, or it's an emotion, or it's a memory, or it's a physical sensation. And now I'll have you say this to yourselves. Thank you, mind, just like that. Thank you, mind, like you mean it, or you do mean it. Thank you, mind, for this thought or whatever it is. I appreciate you bringing this to my awareness. I appreciate you bringing this to my awareness. It lets me know you are working. You keep me alive. I appreciate what you're telling me. Now, ask yourself this question. Does this thought, emotion, memory, physical sensation take me towards or away from my value of spirituality? And if you're dealing with a hook, you would say, takes me away. And so you will say, my intention is to bring my awareness back to spirituality in this moment. That's what I'm practicing right now. Sensation of air in my nostrils on the in-breath. Sensation of air in my nostrils on the out-breath. Now, while you're maintaining awareness on your breath, be aware of any sounds that are in the room, like the air conditioning unit. And then bring to your awareness the memory of this room you're in, where you're sitting in this room. And then, when you're ready, come back to this room by slowly opening your eyes. Thank you.